Good afternoon. My name is Ann Beheeler, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, the CCT webinar on internships and apprenticeships. It is the top of the hour, and we will go ahead and begin. Next slide. First of all, I'd like to talk about our details of this webinar. And in terms of this, you will be in listen-only mode using your computer or your phone. Please do ask your questions via the question window. There will be times when we address those particular questions during the presentation. This webinar is being recorded, and you will be sent a recording link after we are through. This particular webinar is brought to you by the Centers Collaborative for Technical Assistance, with additional support from the ATE Collaborative Impact Project. Next slide. You may wonder what the CCTA actually is. It is led by a group of National Science Foundation centers, the National Convergence Technology Center that I lead, the South Carolina ATE Center, Florida ATE Center, BioLink, and the Network Resource Center at Maricopa Community College. We are leading these webinars to provide technical assistance to DOL grantees and also to NSF grantees, and to provide information to others who are just interested in workforce programs in general. Next slide. Oh, we already have it. The CCTA purpose, I guess we have pretty well covered. We do provide topical webinars on existing and new solutions, and this is one of those. Okay, we have a poll. Would you please fill out the poll with respect to your affiliation so we have an idea of our mix between NSF and TACT grantees? Janet, you can show that slide when you are ready of the results. Okay, we have an interesting mix here. 21% NSF, 28% TACT, and 16% both, with 35% neither. And that's very interesting as well, because hopefully this information will be of general use to all on the group. We have another poll very quickly. How many people are listening with you? We need to keep track of this so that we know what's actually happening, how many people we are reaching. Give you a couple of minutes on that, or actually probably less than that, probably more like a minute. And Janet, you can show the results of that poll when you are ready. Okay, so none obviously would be one person, and then we have a few with more than one involved. This is very good to know. Okay, without further ado, let's talk about today's presenters. I'd like to introduce Elaine Kraft, who is the Executive Director and PI for the South Carolina ATE Center. She is our CCTA host today. I'm Ann Beheeler. I'm the moderator for today. And with us we have Rick Roberts from the SCATE Center, who's going to present on internships. And we have Barbara Murray, who is going to present on apprenticeships. In addition, we have Lois McIntosh, who has a great deal of experience working with internships and apprenticeships, and we'll have a discussion with her at the very end. Rick, take it away.
Thanks, Ann. I appreciate it. Most of you are familiar with internship programs, but in a nutshell, internship programs provide an educational experience in which students complement their academic studies with the relevant work experience. An internship provides hands-on learning that integrates knowledge and theory learned in the classroom with a practical application and skills development in the professional setting. Internships give students the opportunity to gain valuable experience and professional connections in the fields they are considering, and provides employers with the opportunity to guide and evaluate those students. It's all about really building long-term relationships with business and industry who are ultimately going to employ your students. So what I'd like to do is take a quick look at the Internship Elements, and then take a look at our model at the South Carolina ATE, including our purpose, our design, our program review, and how we get feedback as well. So next slide. And what I'd like to do is real quickly take a little participation poll. If you can put that up, Janet, thank you. Give you a minute to fill this in, just kind of get an idea of where people are coming from and whether they're involved currently in internship programs or supervising those. So when you're ready, Janet, we can go ahead and put those results up there. Okay, so we've got a pretty evenly mixed field of individuals here today. Some that are 28% that are involved in maintaining the program. I'm interested in beginning or expanding, so those of you that may or may not have programs, and then I'm not involved at all as 30%, so hopefully you'll be gaining some information about internships today in that regard. So next slide. So our internship elements in general, disciplines and qualifications. Schools have varying qualifications and also the varying disciplines in which they offer internships, and are sometimes broad and pretty varied in that regard. In terms of time and year and duration, the average internship lasts about a semester, maybe 4 months, or a summer session. We're going to talk a little bit about how ours at the AT differentiates a little bit from that. The hours, some internships are full-time. Most range from 10 to 30 hours per week. On the paid and unpaid level, it can be paid, and those are preferable, but unpaid are more typical of the internships that I've dealt with in the past. Normally an internship doesn't receive any employee or retirement benefits from the employer, and if you have some questions about pay, at least the minimum pay, you can refer to the U.S. Department of Labor's fact sheet number 71 entitled Internship Programs under the Fair Labor Standards Act, and it provides guidance regarding whether those internships should be paid the minimum wage. Credit for non-credit, I talked briefly about this. They can be for credit or non-credit or any combination of this, and unpaid and a combination of credit or not credit and paid. Internships for credit should include input from the faculty advisor and academic counselor, and some of those internships actually may tie to a capstone course in some regards. Insurance benefits for the students. Insurance benefit packages are sometimes offered through the employer, but this is more the exception than the rule. And then in terms of monitoring evaluation, each semester the participating company and the college faculty advisors, or who is assigned to do the supervision of interns, should evaluate the student internship work and academic performance. This would include work ethic, dependability, teamwork, flexibility, communication skills, organization skills, and the overall performance of the job. Next slide. So on our premise and purpose at the South Carolina AT Internship and Industry Consortium model, we want to make learning relevant. And internships provides the students with a unique opportunity to gain those academic and practical experience simultaneously. And this is really invaluable to the students and employers as those students move forward and the employers begin to look at those employees who are at the local schools. It will promote student employability. We connect the students to employers. They gain that diverse in experience in diverse settings and in different employment opportunities. Employers build their own future workforce. Through the AT internship, the college and participating industries prepare students for rewarding careers and highly skilled technicians through a cooperative arrangement that combines classroom theory with that practical on-the-job experience in their industry. We have industry consortium bylaws, and they kind of level the playing field with our particular internship program. Area industries and the college collaborate on this ongoing development and implementation and evaluation of internship requirements. So basically the industry drives those consortium policies and guidelines, and the college provides flexibility to align those industry needs. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later in terms of scheduling coursework, the sequences, the lengths of the internships as they move forward. So next slide. Our industry partnership elements. Employers with consortium define the program parameters. So this could be an all-day internship. It could be a year-round internship. They determine those pay scales that they hire internships into. So our industry consortium members participate directly also in the student screening and selection process and review of resumes. They also determine maximum pay. They've recommended and established a Tuesday, Thursday student work schedule. We'll touch on this a little bit in a couple of slides and how the work segment of the webinar. And an industry drives parameters and really dictates those needs, and a college is the need to adjust to those particular needs in order to move forward and be sustainable. The starting pay for the industry consortium members is equal. Each company that is in our consortium and in our internship program will offer the same rate of pay for all internships. The companies usually have the latitude to increase that after the first 3 months or so of an internship. So really what it is a non-compete wage statement between the companies, so they're not gouging each other for particular internships. And since it's not tied to academic credit in our program, those internships can be for extended periods of time. Participating companies agree not to hire prior to graduation, so they provide pay, work experience in a related field, and it's really through the time of graduation. So there's not that, let's grab an intern before they graduate, have them come and be employed and actually not receive their degree. So next slide. Our industry collaboration is really 3 things. It's essential, it's sustainable, and it's flexible. Essentially, it provides qualified individuals for area industries through an ongoing proven process of selecting, training, and promoting high-quality technicians. The industry dictates the needs and when those needs will be met, and they will continue to come back to the college, so the model is really sustainable. If you make it that the companies are engaged in this particular process, they'll continue to come back to you to fill those needs. Each year we host an industry consortium and we review the history and bylaws of the consortium, we go over the guidelines, and we also recruit new employers and industries to the table, and this usually happens in the fall. And this year we're combining that with an internship fair to give companies the opportunity to recruit and inform students about internship opportunities. Sustainable, AT internships enable any deserving student to obtain an associate's degree in a selected engineering industrial technology field, regardless of the student's financial status, providing paid cooperative work experiences. The companies agree to notify any ATE interns of any full-time employee opportunities as they graduate, and that's based on the company's need. So it leads to long-term sustainable employment, and we want to fill that pipeline for qualified students for our industries in our area, and it's flexible. It incorporates essential skills, knowledge, and experiences into a coordinated sequence of academic courses and on-the-job training. It provides alternative educational experiences for academically qualified individuals entering the technology fields. So next slide. So let's talk a little bit about our AT student intern qualifications. For the disciplines in our particular internship, it's computer technology or network systems management, industrial technology, and engineering technology. So we use those 3 particular disciplines as our guide. The GPA requirements, our ATE interns are expected to maintain a minimum GPA of 2.5 throughout their stay in the internship program, and the hours and work are flexible. The participating student attends classes approximately 20 hours per week and works at his or her own company 15 to 20 hours per week. And additional hours worked are contingent upon the company's need and the student's GPA. Next slide. How the South Carolina AT Center and FDTC internship works. This is kind of our model. We paid internships, they're really not tied to academic credit, so the internships are not tied to any kind of particular length. It's not a summer, it's not a semester, so they can be extended periods of time, and there's no additional credit hours received for that time. Course scheduling by the college, which is kind of unique to the program, is to accommodate a Tuesday, Thursday, full-day internship work schedule. So the internship student's coursework is scheduled in sequence and timing that allows for the internship work opportunities. For example, a course sequence may be the student is in the academic side Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then working in the internship as scheduled with consortium members on a Tuesday, Thursday. So the building of those relationships with faculty are key, and the advisors of those identified disciplines are really key to be involved with that and scheduling sequence to make this work. The duration, our internships can begin really in the 2nd semester, which is not the case at a lot of institutions, and continue through graduation. So our internships can be year-round, starting as early as the 2nd semester, and eliminates really any of those restrictions on the durations of any of the internships. The hours are limited to 20 hours a week. The only exception would be if a student is in coursework that is 3.0 or better, and that is available through the employer, the increased number of hours. How the SCE works continued. The benefits and insurance depends on the company and how the student is paid. The college student insurance covers the work-based learning here at Florence Darlington Tech while they're on the site. Other benefits only if the employer really provides them, but that's very, very rare that those employee benefits are given to internships. Our payment methods, the industry hires and pays the intern directly. or they may hire the internship or the intern through an employment agency or third-party hiring agency. Usually this seems to be, in my opinion, a shorter term, and then looks for longer-term employment needs, maybe 1 to 3 months. Or they may have the internship paid via stipend donation to the Florence Darlington Foundation, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. So next slide. This is kind of unique again to our particular program, where the foundation is succinctly involved in the internship program, and the intern is paid a stipend at an hourly rate for hours worked. They're paid bi-weekly. The ATE provides monthly timesheets and pay sheets to the internship. The students receive a 1099 form at the end of the year, so there's no taxes taken out from the foundation. And the foundation staff facilitate security background checks, arrange for drug screening. They actually pay the interns, and the invoices are then sent to the employers for the internship payments and a service charge. And the service charge, which is kind of an upcharge on the hourly rate that we would charge those employers, go to an ATE account in the foundation to support student recruitment, ATE student activities, and obviously the industry consortium meeting and expenses to go along with that. So it's a way, again, about a way to sustain the program moving forward. The college flexibility, it's managed by the college staff. I'm sorry, next slide. It's managed by the college staff and the SCATE Center staff. Resume review with the students. We provide assistance with resume screening for industry partners, interviewing, scheduling, pre-employment services in conjunction with FDTC Foundation. We do an MOA, we do drug screening, we provide the timesheets. We also do tours of industry facilities and appropriate record keeping for those particular interns. Collaboration with faculty and employers are obviously important. Company relationships and building on those is very important, and we continue to do visit sites and involve the faculty in those as well. Coordinated with other benefits for the ATE, and we try to find synergy with other programs supported by the ATE community and in those technology disciplines that we have in our internship program. In terms of evaluation, each semester the participating company is evaluated, and the internships are evaluated based on the work and academic performance. Usually this involves a visit by the ATE staff or advisor to the internship site at least one time a semester, and evaluating those areas that we previously mentioned and experiences as a whole in that regard, and we keep track of those as we move forward for quality assurance. So in a nutshell, as we move forward, it's a win-win. The students are provided with a work experience in a related field. It provides a better than minimum wage normally in our setting employment. There's a high percentage of leads, those internships that lead to employment after graduation. We had an employer just recently that took 5 of our interns, and at the end of the semester they hired all 5. So we're very happy about how that connection has been working. In terms of employers, their expanded access to engineering and industrial technicians in the area. They have the opportunity to screen and select interns. They have the flexible length of internships and the opportunity to grow a future job-ready workforce. So it's also cost-effective public-private partnership that supports the economic development and placement of technicians in the area. So that's our program. If we have questions, we can take those at the end. So thank you.
Thank you, Rick. That was very informative. I'd like to move without further ado to Barbara Murray, and we are going to take questions at the end. So go ahead and keep those questions coming. Barbara is the Executive Director and the Principal Investigator for the SMART Center that is based at Tidewater Community College in Virginia. They are a regional center, however, they actually impact people globally in preparing maritime and transportation workers. So Barbara, take it away.
Thank you, Ann. Yes, the SMART Center actually works for preparing the national workforce for the maritime and transportation centers, maritime transportation industry, excuse me. And so that means coast to coast, but it also means in the middle of the country. And so what we've been working with, which is unique with the SMART Center, is actually focusing on using a registered apprenticeship as our backbone. So as we look at, you'll hear throughout these slides, the stackable credentials, meaning both academic and industry credentials, and that moves right along with registered apprenticeship. So let's move to the next slide, and this slide, thank you. And really what's happening with registered apprenticeship, just the growth has been amazing. In just a little over 2 years ago, our president and the Secretary of Labor announced that registered apprenticeship was going to double over the next 5 years. So all of the sound and noise and action you've been seeing, we've gone from about 375,000 registered apprentices just simply at the end of 2013, and we are in 2016 at over 400,000, approaching 500,000 apprentices. That reach, that work, that awareness, how we're doing that, how we're adding academic credentials into that, is all working towards getting over 750,000 registered apprentices in programs throughout this structured piece over the next 3 years. So let's stay on this slide for a moment. What is registered apprenticeship? 5 core components, but if you don't mind moving back one, Janet. And but the 2 major things that make up the core part of registered apprenticeship is structured on-the-job training, OJT, plus related instruction. So we look at OJT plus RTI. And where one is in a program that's actually part of employed by employer. So if you see it on the left side, they are employed. It is for a very specific set of time, for a very specific occupation, for specific courses that one would be taking and competencies that they would pass. Along the way, they would be getting paid more. They are paid. There's a structured piece if it's a 4-year apprenticeship, for example, usually every 6 months. That's laid out. What the raise would be, what one would be getting for that. At the end of it, the golden credential they're going to get is a National Department of Labor, U.S. Department of Labor occupational credential called Journey Person, or the Journeyman, many of you might know about. Next. And just some facts and figures that are pretty interesting. Over 150,000 employers participate and have programs in registered apprenticeship. That could be employers, it could be labor areas, organized groups, electrical areas that you might be familiar with. Everything though also into healthcare and IT and various areas in transportation that we're working with the ports now. There's over, like I said, over 400,000 registered apprentices, approaching 500,000 now. Their average working salary, over 50,000. So I mean, it's very, very well paid. It's benefits, full-time, and there's a future in it. It works. The employers look at that and say, we've got someone that's here, we're supporting them. The student that's the apprentice is also getting an opportunity to get their college classes, get their education, get their work experience, and that's huge with the mentor helping them. And over a lifetime, just an average, and this could be low, over an average of 20 to 25 year work time, an apprentice actually earns about 300,000 more than their peers that do not have a journeyman. The return on investment is fabulous. It's almost 1.5. So it's $1.47 to every dollar, 47% higher, and that percentage works back to increasing productivity, increasing longevity, and the increase actually just the experience for what the employer has. This is great summation right here. Again, this is where we're currently at with the numbers of apprentices. The new programs, the new apprentices that were just added that increased that number in 200,000 just simply in 2015 with this action. And those that are completing, the numbers of course are more because we have more active programs. Next. What really works and what the Smart Center has been doing by using registered apprenticeship as our backbone is working with both regional and national apprenticeship partners. So if you look at the top of that star and see Smart Center over there in Virginia, but we have partners that we work with obviously all the coast because of the maritime piece. And many of these companies are large companies that have multiple sites, and that's what makes them a national apprenticeship program, and some are regional. And then we're working with those colleges in the region, doing many pathways that could start as early as high school with dual enrollment, and then students that might be coming out of the military could be working with the government in getting paid that direction, our partners and students with the AT centers, and then working super close with those employers and meeting where are we going next. California and Washington is a large need for some of our partners. We're going to have an opportunity here shortly to actually talk to one of our large national partners that helped start this. So next, Janet. So who are some of these partners? These are our folks that Smart Center has worked to set up programs with. Many of them, such as Oceaneering, BAE Systems, the various ports you see on the left there, are all programs that are actually looking, that have set up national programs, meaning a student might be enrolled in Virginia, and they could actually do some work on a contract, for example, in California. on a ship. The ports is what we're looking to do, is start from the beginning and make those a national program where perhaps the Port of Houston and the Port of Baltimore both have crane operators using the same information, same credential that would cross the person over. They could be a journeyman in Virginia and move to California, and they would know that they have the same standard education, the competencies, the skill set. And so it works. It works on that end, that it is very portable. The job task, and those are what's, again, very specific. We're going to just look at this for a moment, and I'm going to ask Alan Walker to come and talk to us about, he was actually the Director of Apprenticeship for BAE Systems. Alan is on the phone here, and Alan helped work with developing what became a regional and a national program, a very large company, and where we have over 15 occupations. 4-year programs, 2,000 hours a year, which is full-time, and then the different occupations we're focused on. Alan, would you like to talk a bit about what BAE Systems does and some of your programs?
Sure.
And then you can go on, Janet.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. So BAE Systems, we're one of the largest non-nuclear repair ships in the nation. We have multi-sites on East Coast, West Coast, Gulf Coast, and Hawaii. And one of the things we use the apprenticeship to do is not only to prepare our future workforce, but really build our future leaders, our next generation of leaders. I had the opportunity, I am a graduate apprentice from a long, long time ago, but when we started looking at redoing our program, about 15 years ago, there were some things that we knew we could be successful in. First off, we could come out with good mechanics, we could come out with good supervisors and future managers and leaders. And one of the things that we wanted to do as we changed it was take not only the Department of Labor and Industry credential, but also add an academic or a stackable credential that they would kind of go as, as they were learning, they would be also earning some credentials along the way. Our particular program was 4 years, and we pay for their college tuition to get these academic credentials as well. It's a full-time job, so they're working as well as going to school. And we were very successful when we redid the program. The occupations, we sat down and using subject matter experts, our mechanics that did the job and the supervisors that oversaw it, and developed the work processes, enlisted the help of Tidewater Community College to kind of supplement with some of the needs, from math, English, and other technical skills to help make them successful. And again, we were pretty successful turning out the apprentices there and actually just preparing our future workforce with other leaders. Barbara.
Yes, thank you. Next, Janet. So what we can show here, and we're next just want to talk about where you could find more information regarding what Alan was saying, where you could find more information specifically about apprenticeship. If you look at the buttons there, we've got apprenticeship place where you can actually go find more information, more details. Next slide, Janet. The videos, the apprenticeship link, if you were a student, if you were someone from military going to maritime, and the different transitions. What we're going to show you now is, throughout those videos, the Smart Center has what's called the Smart Choice videos. And there's about 17 of these now. They all feature apprentices. And right now, if your screen goes blank when we show this video, you'll need to hit escape and you can watch this. And I'm going to let it introduce.
I was working at an auto repair shop. Always have loved turning wrenches and all that.
Little did Coulter Chambers know that he could turn that passion into a lucrative career, not in a garage, but in ship maintenance and modernization.
I was told that the shipyard is all greasy and grimy and you're going to get sick and have health issues and all this blah, blah, blah. And it was totally wrong because they know nothing about it.
Coulter is in an apprenticeship program at Oceaneering, a world leader in performing specialized work on submarine safety systems. He's learning to be an outside machinist while earning college credit taking classes at Tidewater Community College.
They're paying for my school to go at night. I get to work all day and have my money, and I still get to enjoy all my hobbies and not be away from home. I've really loved it.
Young people like Coulter Chambers intrigue apprenticeship recruiters like Scott McLeod, who was an apprentice ship fitter earlier in his career.
You put on your resume that I like to work on lawnmower engines in my garage. Well, I'll look at you as an outside machinist. Like to play around welding. You're my next welder.
I love the smell of wood, not the fire retardant, but the smell of cut wood. I know that's strange, but I do.
A Navy veteran, Cheryl was working below her skill level when she heard about an apprentice program at BAE Shipyard in Norfolk, where she is on track to become, appropriately, a marine carpenter. Cheryl's now earning valuable academic and industry credentials as well as a decent paycheck.
Well, financially, I own my own home. My vehicle's paid off. I'm able to save some money and pretty much come and go as I please.
I was in the Navy for 5 years as a machinist mate.
Now a maritime apprentice at Oceaneering, Jennifer Gilbert is learning technical writing while attending school in the evening, all paid for by her employer.
My next step would be lead planning position, then maybe a production manager, and then so on and so forth, to slowly work my way up through the company. It just goes to show that in an apprentice program, you can do anything you want to do as long as you have the drive and motivation to do it.
I'm Coulter Chambers, and I made the smart choice.
I'm Jennifer Gilbert, and I made the smart choice.
And that's an example of what you will see on the website. There's many tools. There's areas that you can go into to also look at for the Department of Labor apprenticeship area, where you can get the toolkit, you can get the forms, and you could also find out what other programs are in your area. You could search the occupations also. So this is, and if you're interested, of course, the Smart Center would be happy to send you some of the videos and send some things we use for career days and for other events. Why would you use registered apprenticeship? And on this slide here, I'm just kind of summing up again some of the win-win scenario with employers. Alan was talking about working with education, getting what they need, getting long-term employees that actually, work to actually bring more value to the company, and then the employer also has something themselves that they can take further. It's a model that's been around for over 70 years. It works. It's been working in many different industry strands, and it still provides and produces world-class talent that usually stay on for many, many years, just as Alan's done this for over probably close to 30 years in shipbuilding and ship repair and with BAE Systems. Other companies you recognize there, such as Walgreens, Blue Cross, Ford, Chrysler, Whirlpool, some of those huge companies have programs throughout the nation, and then there's smaller ones. Some only have one or two. It's adaptable, it's flexible, it can be set up to work directly with what the company's needs are, and working along with that education entity, whether that's a community college, a private area, or their own program. What do you get at the end? I mean, again, the prize is the nationally recognized certificate. I give an example similar to most people know what an RN is, a registered nurse. Whether you went to a program that was a registered program in Montana or Virginia, you have a nationally recognized certificate that spells out your education and your experience in certain components in certain areas. Others is the employers can be recognized as something new, something fairly new, only 2 years old, is Apprenticeship USA Leader. And you could apply to be that. The credentials are stackable, meaning that you'll earn interim credentials, oftentimes with a college or academic credential. It could be a welding credential. It could be experience with the forklift, depending on what your occupation is along the way, to earning this total credential that you could go take that out and getting more pay and becoming leader with. Next. Career pathways that are on the website, and there's a place where you look at it, it says career pathways. This really was a world of work and many ideas and opinions that came in that show what is our audience that we serve from the Smart Center, from an AT Center, for example, with this veteran, a college graduate, a re-careering person, a young person coming from high school. What would they do? What do they take next? How do they prepare? If you see the bottom of the blue arrow, and what can they earn? Those first academic credentials, those could be earned. They could get them into an apprenticeship program easier. They stack along with those next industry credentials, could earn an industry credential that tops that off, getting an associate degree and moving on up. Along the way, as they move up, the pay goes up. Next, Janet. And that's what this is showing. As if you look at there and focus in on the middle, the associate degree, the bachelor degree, and the apprentice. And you would know this is overall, we look at most new apprentice grads are actually earning more than students graduating with a bachelor's degree. And the beauty of that also is with that earn and learn model, they're usually not only making good money and getting benefits, but they don't have the bills because the employers usually will pay for all their schooling. And so when they get that education piece, they're moving right out there, they're becoming leaders. And many of those most inspired will go on to an advanced degree. Some will stay at that apprentice graduate and with their journeyman, and some are going to go ahead and finish their degrees. And so that's where we were looking at earlier, that over a lifetime, 300,000 to 400,000 more that someone's working, they'll earn over their lifetime because of having that journeyman. Next. And this is, again, sums up what I was saying about education pace. If you look, this is just one of the tools. It's on the website. One of the ones that work really well to give that big snapshot, that big picture. And it's looking at maritime jobs and transportation jobs. If you start at the bottom of this list and look up, starting from high school or high school diploma, what could one start with? What do they get paid by minimal skills or education there? As they learn more, get more credentials, you see that the pay goes up. Examples of those types of jobs. And as you get in the middle of the page with the certificates, the degree, and then the registered apprenticeship above that, you see what happens. The salary range from about 40 to 70 or 80,000 depending on that occupation. Cap that off with an advanced degree and that goes up. So one of the things you also saw that I want to make sure we take away with this is the RAC, the Registered Apprenticeship College Consortium. Again, a newer entity that was begun by U.S. Department of Labor, Apprenticeship USA, about 2 years ago. And we would love for you to look at this website, join that, learn much more about it. You could become an education institution now, can become a sponsor where that wasn't before. So you can learn more about that. Collectively, they're going to be doing their first conference this fall in the end of October for the registered apprenticeship members that are in this college consortium. And so I invite you to learn more about that, ask us more questions, and to go in there and find out how you can become a part of that if you're interested. Next. Okay. Alan, do you have anything to add that I missed on? Yeah, this is
Go ahead.
Just say one thing, you know, why an apprenticeship? Well, an apprenticeship, and I'm going to talk like a parent now, why wouldn't you want your child to get a job where they're going to pay for education even outside of work, and in a 3 or 4 year time frame earn, you know, better than $50,000 a year, and at the end of that have a college credential, an industry credential, and no student loan debt. And on top of that, apprentices, graduate apprentices are retained by businesses and in fact become future leaders. So that's kind of my plug for the apprenticeship.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Barbara. I have a few questions here that have come in, and feel free to ask more. You may certainly enter more. One question was that they wanted to see the slides, and in fact the slides are for this webinar and for all the webinars that we've ever done are on www.atecenters.org/CCTA. Once again, www.atecenters.org/CCTA. And further, if you're on this webinar, you will receive a follow-up email that tells you when the slides are available from this particular webinar. And the recording is also out there for all of the webinars that we have done in the past. Another question I had come in was that someone asked how a consortium can be involved. It sounds like internships are with individual companies. Maybe you could address that, Rick, about how a consortium of companies or a consortium of educational institutions might be able to work together. And then Barbara, you may want to do that too.
Okay, thanks,
Rick?
Ann. Thanks, Ann. I think what the strength of that is now you've got the community beyond just the schools. You've got the you've got the companies out there who are actually employing the individuals, and their strength in numbers. The way we pulled that together was we let them kind of take the lead on, yes, there's a need in our particular area for those particular disciplines in their particular companies, and they developed the guidelines, the rules. There was actually at one point a membership fee that was charged, and we're not doing that right now, but there was, and the companies actually agreed to pay that fee to be in the consortium. So what happened for us was that initial need was out there. We went out and decided that we were going to try to address that need, and the consortium kind of built itself from their point. And it is a process, and it does take some time, and it does take a lot of approaches to get people involved and to keep them involved. But I think with the consortium, there's kind of that strength in numbers, and there's that overall view of we have a need as a community, not just company to company, and it's everybody kind of helping themselves. And it benefits the students in the long run, and it benefits the college.
Okay. Barbara, do you want to comment?
Yes. Actually, interestingly, some of what Rick said, but also we developed something called the Maritech, the Maritime Consortium. Started with a task force over 10 years ago because that consortium piece worked well. It's a education and industry component. So what we have in education is we have the information, but we can't necessarily go out there and go on site or put students on site for industry. What industry needs is those students and need to have input, but they can't necessarily go out and pluck out the students or go into the classroom to talk to them. The consortium brings that together where an even playing field, an informational exchange. We have monthly meetings now for the Maritime and Technologies Consortium. So it really was the backbone that began the Smart Center. There's over 40, almost 50 members of this, and it's everybody from counselors to the deans to the employers to new programs that begin. And from that, they've been able to lay out, here's what we need next, here's what we don't have, here's what we're looking for. Education is able to hear that. We're able to solve things. And I'm actually going to skate it to just punt it a minute here to Alan, because Alan walked in as an employer with this that helped get that start. Alan, do you want to have a couple more things you want to say about the consortium?
Yeah, one of the values of the consortium is obviously similar industries, they're extremely competitive. We don't share stuff back and forth, but we all had a common problem in that we couldn't bring a skilled workforce, entry-level workforce to our places of employment. So through the consortium and through the efforts of the college and all, we were able to drill down, okay, what do we need collectively, and then leverage that to really have an effect on getting a better prepared workforce in our area. So the consortium was invaluable with that, because without that, there wouldn't have been the collaboration that we had. So.
Okay, there are a few more questions. I will suggest that at the end we're going to have email addresses for the folks that are presenting. And so if your question did not get answered, please go ahead and email the people presenting, and I'm sure they'll answer. Janet, could we go to the next slide? At this point, I would like to turn it over to Elaine Kraft and Lois McIntosh to discuss actually experience of work-based learning opportunities. Elaine and Lois.
Thank you, Ann. We've heard that the apprenticeship program is a fairly structured opportunity for students to get the work-based learning experiences. And if you do internships, there's a lot more flexibility, and the college is going to have to take the lead on setting a number of things up. And so I thought we would talk with Lois a little bit about her experience. She's had a lot of experience in both arenas. And in terms of an internship, where would you think that in the college curriculum, where a student could be placed in an internship? How early, how late?
Well, Elaine, I would say for the college realm that it's the freshman year for the second semester. I would say the second semester is not too soon. This will allow the student of the second, of the semester to get adjusted to college life after the first semester. So we even have students in high school going into internships, so and apprenticeships, as you've heard from Barbara. So I would say the second semester.
Okay. What about managing the employer expectations regarding what a student knows and is able to do? How do you ensure that the work they assign in to intern is challenging and relevant to the student's program of study, but not unreasonable, and also not just busy work such as filing or housekeeping tasks?
Well, that's when you have to really work with the employer to make sure that the internship is well defined. Make sure that whoever is over at the career service area has really been in this process to make sure that this is defined so that the students will have a meaningful experience. When it comes to the apprenticeship, those standards are already set by the employer and Department of Labor, as we've heard before.
So what about getting your students ready to go out into the workplace? There are many considerations. Rick talked earlier about making sure they're covered by insurance and that sort of thing, but you know, who at the college really needs to be involved in that process? And what do you do to prepare the students themselves, their appearance, behavior, work ethic, you know, that sort of thing?
Well, one of the things that we did was we prepared the students through mock interviews. We talked to the students about dress. We made sure that the students was talking about those employability skills, making sure that they knew how to come to work on time. All of those types of things are important in this time of making sure that they have those critical skills in place for apprenticeship or internship.
And who at the college should be involved in this process? You talked about mock interviews and resumes and, you know, the various prep steps.
I would say your career service area and your counselors and faculty. Yes.
So, Lois, once you get your program set up and you get your students out there and you're trying to match a student to an industry situation, how do you get the right fit? And what do you do if it ends up not being a good fit?
Well, that can happen. Well, one of the things in getting the right fit, you really have to make sure that you have had that relationship with the employer. We heard that when Ellen talked before about the apprenticeship. We want to make sure you have good relationships with employers, because if you don't have that right fit, that student can break the program. But we've had that situation happen, and we had a great relationship with the employer, and he came back and got another one. That student just wasn't a good fit because that student just didn't have the critical skills that they were looking for at the time. You need to make sure also that those job descriptions of what the employer is looking for is all defined in everything.
Yeah, I actually, Lois, had a situation one time where we placed an intern, and he came in and reported that he was unhappy and he wanted to quit. Well, we just were confused about this, and so we started talking with him. We said, well, what is it about the company that's not working for you? And what we learned is that this particular student was a farm boy. He'd spent his entire life outside hunting and fishing and just doing things outdoors. And this was the first time that he worked indoors in a plant with no windows for a full 8-hour shift. And he realized that that was just not for him. And fortunately, because we found out about his unhappiness and did have that good relationship with the employer, we were able to get the employer a different intern, and we placed this young man with the power company who had a great opportunity for him that involved a lot of outside work. So I think fit can be sort of a work environment situation and a culture of the industry, as well as the skill sets, don't you think?
Oh yes, most definitely. Fit is very important. Yes.
How do you suggest that people go about evaluating these programs once you've got your students out into the workplace? That feedback loop we've heard from all of our speakers is really important. And of course that's labor intensive. It takes somebody out there to do it. So what are your suggestions in terms of how you make sure you've got a good feedback loop and evaluation process in place?
Well, for us, one of the things that we did, we had a coach in place where we met with the employer and met with the student, and we had evaluation forms for the employer and for the student. That feedback is necessary for the student and the employer in order for it to be a win-win for both. So we definitely made sure those forms was did and met with the employer on a quarterly basis just to make sure that things are going well, and just to also make sure with the student that they are, sometimes the student may tell you, someone at the college, something that they may not feel that they are comfortable in telling the employee yet. And having those relationships with both will help make it a win-win for both.
Yeah, that's good advice. Lois, do you have any other tips from your experience in the field with this that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, the only thing I can say, Lane, is that we continue to make this a win-win is by communication with both the student and the employer. The relationship is the main thing, and that will always make a win-win for both.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right about that. Okay, Ann, I think we're back to you if there are any more questions in closing.
I think we will move on past the questions at this point, and we're going to talk about the next webinar. You see that showing? This is a webinar to focus on using social media. I'm working with Gordon Snyder, who's also heavily involved in the ATE program, on a research project right now on using social media as a tool for not only reaching a greater audience, but as a tool for actually growing enrollments. And I hope you will join us for this particular webinar. I think you'll find it fairly interesting for you. And then we have other upcoming webinars that are listed also at the website that is shown below. All right, next. Could we skip to the next slide first, which shows the contact information, and let that show for just a bit so that people can write down those contacts? Again, this will be on the website in a few days, but if you are just really wanting to ask another question, this might be the way to do it. And actually, now that I look at the timing, we may have room for one more question. So I'm going to make an audible call here myself and ask one of them. Barbara, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there was a question. You mentioned that apprentice folks oftentimes earn more than bachelor's degrees. Do you know whether or not that is still true 10 years later for the bachelor's degree and the apprentice?
It depends on what the occupation is and then what the degree is. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to actually, because it actually happened, for example, with Alan, with many they had over a couple hundred apprentices that he managed and watched this go through. Alan, you want to give an example?
Yeah, best example I have is one of our graduate outside machinists. She actually was the first one to graduate with Associates of Applied Science and Maritime Technologies. And right now today, she is out working in Hawaii as a program manager, probably making, and this is, you know, somewhere approaching about $90K with a 2-year degree. And that is right at the 10-year mark. Actually 10 years of employment, 6 years post apprenticeship completion. That's about the best example I have. A good portion of the people, at least in my industry, will make, you know, would exceed 75K at a 10-year mark of employment if they're a graduate apprentice.
So compared to bachelor's degrees, what would a bachelor's degree be making at that point in the kind of area where she is?
That would probably be like a mechanical engineering technology, and I would think she would be pretty comparable, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right. And another question, Rick, how might you get an employment agency involved in helping with an internship program, or do you have any ideas about how to do that?
Yeah, thanks, Ann. Most of the third-party employment agencies are really contracted through the industries themselves. but we do have specific contacts if we wanted to do that through our program, but a lot of those are kind of through the companies themselves, so they're kind of already established that they're already using those third parties to hire temps or part-time employees, so they just morph it into the internship program as well.
Okay.
So I don't know if, Elaine, you've got a little history on that, if that's any different.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'll turn it over to you, Janet. We're going to ask you please to do our survey, our end of webinar survey. Again, we need to go through and learn what we might be able to do better and what you liked. So we appreciate you coming today. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Lois. And thank you, Janet, for the brains behind the technical side of this. She's done a very good job of helping with us, and we appreciate all of you for coming today. Thank you very much.